Hi there. So I think I have everything set up and that you can see everything. Hi. Welcome to 12 Ways to Get Your Year Started Right with BookShark. I'm excited about sharing this information with you and got some feedback from people last week. And so this week, I'm having a video with it, and also I'm going to record it. I recorded the first one today, and then I'm going to record this one, and it'll probably be this one after I warmed up from the first time to share with everybody, so you will be able to see this workshop online afterwards. So as we go along, I would encourage you to write questions on the site to see, and I will try to keep up with those questions. So I'll try to look at them each time I turn to a new slide and then answer the questions because they should pertain to that slide then. I might get a few slides behind, so bear with me, please. I'm kind of a one-man band here and trying to work this all myself, and adding in video and recording adds just another element to that too. So welcome to BookShark. Let me get this. Now my presentation is not quite what it should be doing yet. So we'll see. Come on. It's not working. All right, so we might have to restart this. Yep, it's on the right page, but it's not moving. So I'm going to close that up, and then we'll restart that. Sorry. All right. We're back here. It's still not coming up like it should, though. All right. We'll take it a different route. So here we go. This is why. That's not working again. Oh well, we'll see what it does here. So my name is Lynn Woodley. I have homeschooled my son, who is now at the end of this month going to be 21. I started using the sister company product in 2001 and actually was the consultant for that company for all those years. And then last year started with BookShark, and they're what they call the product expert and the liaison between the charter schools. So have a lot of knowledge, and this is one of the workshops that I did for my clients for years and years. It was one of their favorite workshops, and so I found it had great benefit to help take that overwhelming feeling that you might be having right now and take it away and help you really get a good start using BookShark. My email is on there, and I would encourage you to write it down. It is something that if you have a question you need to answer, I'm also going to be talking about, and I'll bring that up right now, choosing and combining your kids. That's been one of the questions that's been asked by new families using 2 different levels at one time. So how to combine. That's a workshop that I am going to be putting together. It is one of the workshops that I do usually in the spring. So for right now, for all of you that are new and starting and want to have some more information on that, please write that information down, write my email down, and shoot me an email and have the subject line choosing and combining workshop. And then I'm going to put together a time. It'll be on Google Hangout. So if you haven't done that before, go to Google, set up a Google Gmail account, and then I use a different email for that. You'll have to email me a different one so I can set you up in there so we can have a hangout. So each of those meetings is going to be with 9 people, no more, because that's all that Google Hangout will handle. It'll be more intimate in that we'll be able to see each other and have interactive talking happening. So that will be a workshop that's separate. So if you have combining questions, I will answer those, not today. I will answer those in that workshop. So if you are interested in that, please do email me. This recording is happening in August of 2016, and that's just for those who are listening to the recorded version of this. So that's the information. Oh, please. This slide is not working. Please bear with me. Ah, are the attendees muted? Yes, all the attendees are muted. So at the end, I will also have a time for question and answer. And if you want to be unmuted and ask the question, we will have time for that, about 15 minutes remaining in the time. So yeah. Oh, there we go. It's going to work from there. So this is not how I typically run the slide, so it's running a little different. You're welcome, Catherine. So I try to make this 12 ways to get your year started right with BookShark, but it happens that I can't whittle it down to 12. So you get the benefit of 6 extra bonus things. So you probably saw that there are handouts. So you should have gotten the link in the last alert to remind you to come to this workshop. So in that link, you should be able to have already gotten those handouts. If you haven't gotten those handouts, I would encourage you to do that right away, right now. And that link, if you don't have that, is bookshark.com/. So that's bookshark.com/12-ways-webinar. So if you go there, there should be both of the handout pieces. One is the outline that you can make notes on, and the other is the calendar that we will be discussing, which is actually a key point and piece to this whole workshop. It's the piece that my clients of past loved having and came back year after year and did this workshop. We did it live. There were typically around 50 people that came. We had a picnic, and we actually usually started at 6 p.m. and it usually lasted till 1 a.m. So we had a great time. It was a fun time for the parents, the teaching parent, and so it was great. So we're going to be going through all of those pieces, and I would encourage you to take notes and run right along. And like I said, if you have questions, please do write them as we go along, and I will try to keep up with them. Okay, so here we go to really start it. Box day, you probably either went to your charter school or you answered the door and there was this beautiful box there. And then when you opened it, it was like, ta-da, there they are, all the books and all the materials and all the pieces that you're going to use through the year. So it's fun because it's like gift day. There's all these gifts in there, all these fun things that you're going to be doing through the year. But at the same time, while the kids are excited about all these books, Mom, you are probably going, what do I do with this stuff? And you're probably a little bit overwhelmed. Hence the reason I do this workshop, because you will get tidbits of information that will help you to really be successful in the year. And that's what I want. I want to give you that successful feeling to have. So as I go through, you may think, I don't know if I really agree with that, but try it. Really try it, because this is years and years of experience and using it myself, and also listening to other clients and getting some of their tidbits of information. So book day, let your kids be in the middle of it. Take pictures. Send us the pictures. We'd love to see the pictures, and maybe you'll see them on our site sometime. It'll be fun, but we do enjoy seeing the pictures of your families using and touching the books and using it. But after that day, those books are off limits. They are something that you don't want to do, and you might be saying, say what, Lynn? You want me to have those books off limits? And the answer to that is yes, and there's lots of reasonings for that. And it will help make your school time, your learning, your education time with your family and your children exciting. I know a lot of you have children that just devour books, because this is BookShark and we like to devour our books. So, but there is a good reason to have that happen. And that is, it leaves excitement for the school year. And it causes them to not just read all the books and say, okay, I'm done with that. I don't need to do that for my exercise. But within BookShark, we have this awesome instructor's guide that is full of educational information. So if you look at this, mom, and you see this, it deals with all the books that you are going to be going through and learning with your children. So if you let them read through the books before the lessons happen, they're going to have some great information on those wonderful books, but they haven't done the assignments. They haven't done the comprehensive questions. They haven't done the mapping. They haven't done the timeline. They haven't done the vocabulary. So they've read awesome books, but they haven't done everything to make those books come alive. They also probably haven't read them in the order that we've placed them, and the order that we've placed them is a great tool to have them see a point in history from different perspectives. So you want to help them to start learning how to logically think that way, how to get information from different points of view, and then process that and come to their own conclusion of what happened and how it happened. So yeah, say what? Keep those books off limits, because it does create an excitement for the school. And as we go through and I do another part of this, I will be touching on this again and how that excitement comes to a draw. So books off limits after opening that box. Okay, so the first point that we are going to really touch on, I want you right now to grab your binder. You'll have your binder. If you've gotten it from a charter school, likely it's already put together, but I do want you to follow along and touch the pieces that I'm going to be talking about. And then those of you who haven't started anything yet, have gotten your own, you're an independent, I want you to pull out your instructor's guides. You should have a history piece, a language arts piece, and a science piece. And mine aren't of the same level, I'm sorry. I didn't pull out the history piece for this, but just so you see, this is the history piece. So you put it in one pile, you unwrap it, take the cellophane off of it. This is the language arts piece, you'll put it right next to that, and then you'll take the science piece and lay it next to that. Yours are going to be loose, they're not going to be bound like mine. Mine are for display for when I go to conventions or when I go to charter fairs, so that they're easier to pack up and they're easier to show and display. So they don't come like this, nor would you want them to come like this. So I know it looks like it's handy, but it really isn't. And you'll see why at the end. This is really the more handy way to have it. I know it looks big and cumbersome, but it really is a wonderful way to have it. So as you can see on my icon with the books, there are 3 binders, or 3 of the instructor's guides, and then your binder with tabs. So you take your binder and your tabs, and the first thing you'll do with your pile here is you'll take this hard copy piece off and set it aside. Take all 3 of them and just set them aside. I'll show you what we're going to do with them later. You can either put them in the front of your notebook or in the place that I'm going to tell you about later. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to see that there are 3-4 sections to your instructor's guide. In section 1, which is what I'm going to refer to later as pre-notes, but we're going to just kind of bypass that right now, and then you're going to see that there's other sections. So get to your section 2, which will be like this, which behind it is just your schedule and your notes. So on your piles, take this first section, section 1, and put it just above your pile for each of those instructor's guides. You'll be with the schedule now and the notes, and so you'll thumb down and you'll get through all the pages for week 1. So you have the schedule and all the note pages behind it until you get to week 2. So for this one, you'll grab out this many sheets, then you'll take that and go over to your language arts piece, and you'll grab week 1. The last thing in each week will be your activity sheet. So when you get to the activity sheet, that's the last piece. And you'll put that underneath your history, and then you'll go over it and you'll do the same thing and get week 1 for your science. So you'll have all 3 of those: history on top, language arts in the middle, and biology, or not biology, science, in the lower part. Then you'll take and put that behind week 1. And then you'll just continue to do that, and you can do that right now. Do like 4 weeks. That's what I would like you to get in there, 4 weeks. And then you'll do this later. So you'll finish this task later. One of the things I did not mention yet is that you'll want to take and plan 10 to 20 hours to organize, to touch, to read through prior to starting your school. When you do this, it will help you know and understand the material that you have so that you can be successful through the year. So plan that. This is 2 hours. This is 2 hours of that 20 hours. Box day was probably you spent about an hour maybe of that too, getting to know, touch your product, getting to know it and understand it. So just keep track of that. I mean, you just have to be aware that it's going to take time. It's your prep time. It's prep. So once you do that, it's going to be wonderful. One of the things and one of the reasons why I became a consultant and do the workshops that I've done over the years is because I want to help people be successful and not burn out. We as moms can burn out, as homeschool moms can burn out easily. And that's why I love this curriculum, is that I am confident that year after year after year, each year builds on itself, and that I don't have to worry about missing pieces, especially like with language. That's kind of a difficult subject to teach and to get all the concepts down and to do it. For example, grammar is a piece that I think that the language mechanics and grammar was the piece, is that the grammar can't be mastered by anybody until they're about 12, because the brain is not developed to the point which they can master it. They can do memorization on it, but they don't understand it, and they can't master it until about 12 years old. So when you start with grammar at the younger ages and you do it and you do it and you think, oh my goodness, why are they not getting it? It's because their brain is not capable of getting the mastery of it until then. So memorizing the pieces does help once you can get that mastery at the age of 12 and after. So once you get going and do that, you can understand why the pieces are put together when they're put together. And so that was the confidence building I had with using this program. Any educated teacher will tell you that it takes 3 to 5 years to create a lesson plan for them. We as homeschool moms don't have 3 to 5 years to create each lesson plan, because as we're working in one, we're working out of it at the same time. And you don't have the time to do the research and the scheduling and all of that. And if you do, you're going to be burned out in time. And this is a journey for you to enjoy and a journey for you to even learn on. I know that when I started the program, I learned at the first level, which was the Introduction to World and Cultures, and that's the one that's for ages 5 to 7. And I'm college education and extra after that too. So if I can learn, a 5 to 7-year-old can learn in there too. Even an 8-year-old can learn. One of the things that I used to do at another one of my workshops was gave all the attendees a vocabulary test, because placing your child is really important. We're not grade level, and I can't stress that enough. We are not grade level. We are age appropriate, which is why I point out that even at the K level, the ages 5 to 7 level, you will learn. Even as a parent, you will learn, but your children will learn too. So at this workshop, I gave them a piece of paper and said, we're going to do a vocabulary test. And I said, I pulled this out of one of the instructor's guides. And this is just to show you the level of each guide and how you can adjust it to all different ages and make it appropriate. And I won't go as in depth, but so pull out your piece of paper. And what I would say is you need to write the description of this, the meaning of this word, and write it in a sentence, and then also create a paragraph for it. So the first word I would always give them was pedantical. And they'd all kind of look at each other and look at me, and then hold their breath and kind of look at their paper and look down. And it was interesting because that's a difficult word. And then I would say, no, I really don't want you to do the vocabulary. I just want you to be aware of how you can teach to many different ages in one level. And so that came out of level 1. And it's not that somebody that's 6 to 8 is going to master that word. It's that they're going to be introduced to that word. Their vocabulary is going to grow from that. But if you had an older child, you could have them research the word, look at the word, see what the root of it is, and write a paragraph on that. So you can create that and make that. So that's a little bit of a sideline to what is all in this instructor's guide. So by now you should have 4 weeks in your guide. And then I want you just to stop because we're going to go along. But as we work along here, you will see what we're going to do with that next. So this file right here, the big one that we have just been talking about, that will have the 36 weeks in it. It will have section 1 in the beginning of it. It'll have section 3 and section 4 in the back. This is what I call the binder, the file binder. I'm sorry, it's the file. So it is big. It is enormous. It is heavy. It is rich with material. We as BookShark now have, we have had and do have the instructor's guides all online. So you can go online when you've purchased with us. You can go online and you have access to those online guides. So if you have a mobile device, you can go anywhere without having to take your paper book, your instructor's guide with you. You can have it on access. You have 18 months access to that guide. So I would encourage you to do that, but I personally like the paper because I like to make notes on it and mark it off and make sure, put dates on it. But a lot of people like the mobile piece too. So the next thing that we're going to work on is the working binder. That is just a 3-ring view binder that you will get that's maybe an inch view binder. And then what you'll do with that is you'll take like 3 weeks, 4 weeks maybe, but 3 weeks of your materials out of your file binder, and you'll put that in your working binder. On the front of your working binder, because it's a view binder, you're going to take this hard copy of your history, and you're going to take your language arts and put one in the front and one in the back view binder. That will help you to recognize that notebook and know that it is the notebook that you're going to be working from. And from that, you're going to be able to put in your math schedules, maybe your handwriting schedules. You'll be able to put your calendar that we're going to be talking about later in there in the front that you'll always have in there. So there'll be a few things that you'll have running in there. You'll even take your map that's in the very beginning of this binder, and you'll put that in the front of your view binder because you'll want to have that access at all times. So there's going to be those things in that view binder. So, all right. Let me see if there's any questions right now. Okay, there's one thing here. I don't know. The question is, will I be talking about what's planned for high school in the years after level 100? Yes, I will at the very end. And if I forget, please remind me again, okay? So I will be touching on that subject. Thank you for bringing that up, and that kind of puts a little flag in my head too for that. So the working binder, does everybody understand what the purpose of that is? It gives you a smaller binder that you can work with, and it just is flowing. And then I'll show you, talk to you a little bit about how you're going to do that, work with that on Sunday night too. So you have your file binder, your working binder, and then you're going to have your student portfolios. So the student portfolios are going to start out with empty. So however many kids you have, you're going to have a notebook for each one of them. And it's going to be completely empty at the beginning of the year. It doesn't need to be a view binder. It can be the cheapest binder you can find because you're not going to use it. You're going to just store the portfolio information in there. So the way I worked my portfolio was I did it chronologically. So every written piece of paper that your child does for that year, you have a three-hole punch sitting right by those binders, and maybe at the end of every day, you will have them punch a hole for every piece, and you have them stick it right on top, open it up and stick it right on top. It's chronological, it's not by subject, it's just to get the papers in there and have them stored. They are stored chronologically, so it's good. It'll be good to see their progress. If grandma and grandpa come, or somebody else comes, or if you have to take it to a charter, if somebody needs to, if you need to report to anybody, you can take that notebook in with you and let them see the progress. So I recommend just a cheap little notebook. 3 inches typically what you would want to have. And then the other thing I would recommend is that you get a box, maybe some kind of moving box that's a nice size that would fit 12 of those in it, and then put those perhaps in your attic. Put the name of each student on their own box, and at the end of the year, then you'll take that full portfolio and you'll put it in the attic on the very last day. Maybe that's one of the last things that you do, so that then it's away and it's kind of a ritual thing that you guys will do as a family, and each child will put their own notebook in their own box. And then at the end of their education, home education, they will have a box full of wonderful memories and stories and all their written material. The only time this is a little bit different is if you're doing Eastern Hemisphere. If you're doing Eastern Hemisphere, which is for ages 10 to 13, you're going to have what is called Eastern Hemisphere notebook pages. They are in the history section of your instructor's guide. You will want to have an additional notebook just for that, and it will only need to be like a 1/2 inch or an inch. I would encourage you to get probably an inch notebook. I would get a view binder and put that first page in there that says Eastern Hemisphere notebook pages, and then you'll want one of those for each of the children that are doing that piece. That's the only year that is different, that because they're going to be doing a lot of research. That's a fun level. Don't miss it, but it is going to be different. So that's the only time that you'll have an additional piece for that binder. Okay, so I'm going to check questions here. Is the working binder separate from the file binder? Yes. You want the file binder, because it's huge, to be separate. You'll take 4, maybe 2, 3, or maybe 4 weeks of these files out of here and put it in a smaller 1-inch binder. So you'll have a 1-inch view binder. You'll stick the copy of the history piece cover here. Everybody should have a cover. And if you'll notice, they're all color-coded, and we'll talk about color coding later. And then you just take and put, I'll just do it right now. We'll take and put the pre-notes, which is section 1. I'm sorry, I always call them pre-notes. But you take section 1 with the map in it, and you stick it in that file like that, and then you'll take 1, 2, I like 3 weeks, so I've taken 1, 2, 3 weeks of the notes, and I stick that in there. So that's the start of my working binder. It's way lighter, and it's way more user-friendly. And then you just stick that like that, so then I know that this is the notebook. So already, see how much nicer and easier that is? So every week you're going to be working with this, and you'll take, we've finished week 1 now, so we'll take week 1, and I'll take that out of here. I'll put it back in the file binder, and then I'll take the next week and put it behind that. So then I'll have 2, 3, 4 for the following week. So I now have my working binder with my map in here and my pre-notes, which is section 1, which we're going to be going over soon, and then it's right there. So we can go then from there. Sure wish this thing was working properly. All right, so key. Here's a key right now. So what I want you to just make note of is those pre-notes, or actually section 1 notes. I want you to read those, and then all of the notes in week 1. There's going to be a lot of notes in week 1 that will help you from for the beginning of the year. So all of these pages that you have that are pre-notes in section 1, you want to read through, make sure you get through them all. You may not understand it all. It may sound like Greek to you, and so you might not understand pieces of it. And then all of the notes here, you're going to be reading through, looking at the schedule, but it's really important just to read through all these notes, because there's going to be pieces of notes in here that will only be touched on week 1, so that you can get all that information in. There's going to be pieces. So the key here is that once you've done 4 weeks of material, you're going to make a note. So on week number 4, down in, let's say this is week 4, it's only 3 though, down here on this section here, you're going to make a note that says, go back and reread section 1 and week 1 notes. And the reason why I want you to do that, and this is so important, is that when you've read them now before you start, it's going to be a bit overwhelming. When you go back and read them after you've done 4 weeks of material, you're going to understand it more, and you're going to go, aha, that's what that meant. So once you've done 4 weeks, you haven't gone that far into the program to where if you've missed one of those pieces and one of those elements of the aha, you won't miss it longer. So you'll be able to start making up for what you might have missed. So what seemed like Greek before will all of a sudden turn to English, and so you'll understand that, because English is probably most of your first language. So that is key. So if you have a charter instructor's guide that you can't write in, then I would say put a post-it note. So everybody write a post-it note if you can't write in your book. Put a post-it note on week 4. Do that right now. Write that and say, go back, read section 1 and week 1 notes. If this is your instructor's guide, write that on that piece of paper, on that schedule, week 4. At the end of week 4, read those pieces over again. This is critical and will help you in a huge way. You might go through and go, oh yeah, okay, I got that. But maybe you won't. Maybe you'll pick up on a piece that is extremely important for you. Okay, so we've taken care of that. But the next piece that, oh, I've got questions here. Let me stop right now and answer these questions. The question is, can I quickly go over what materials will be in the working binder? I will be going over that as we go along. So the first thing that we want in there is that section 1 before week 1, and then 3 weeks. I would say 3 weeks of materials that you pull out of your file binder. All right. And then the next question is, I have a reading and history assignments from the same book. On Monday in history, it says to read chapters 1 to 2, but in reading, it says read chapters. What level, Connie, what level is that for? 6. 6 is going through a rewrite right now. And so there was a book that was pulled in the beginning that is being rewritten. So if you have that, then you will want to write bold, B-O-L-D, at BookShark.com and ask about how that's going to match up. So that is being worked on right now as we are working. In time, they are going to have the first 3 weeks, as you know, you can get the samples online, so you will be able to pull up those samples. They're not quite ready yet, so just keep checking on those and seeing. But you can also write bold at BookShark.com and see what the status of that is. That is right now being worked on. So that happened just recently, and so we just became aware of that. One of the books, sometimes publication stuff happens and we have no control over that. So that's kind of one of those situations. So it's the last minute and they are working on it right now. I just found out about it yesterday. So anyway, so cataloging the books. If you notice, Um, this is level 6. This is level 3. And this one is the first one for Introduction to World and Culture. So you'll notice that each one of them have a different color. They're color coded. And this really helps us when we are cataloging books. Now, if you have books from a charter that are the charter's books, you could call them and ask them if you can catalog them, because it will help for future families if they're using future families. You could see if you could do that for them. It would be a help, I would think, in the future. I do know that there are some charters that would like that done, but it is a big process. So if you guys as a family wanted to catalog those for them, that would be great, especially knowing if they know that they're the way that I'm helping you guys understand how to do. So as you see the color on your hard copy of your piece, like this one is green, you may want to go get label paper, a full sheet of label paper, solid label paper that maybe is color coded, or maybe you get a highlighter that is of that color, because you can get highlighters now in all different colors. So you could do it that way. I'm trying to see, like, maybe next year we'll have that label paper that you can purchase yourself and have the color that goes for the book or for that level. And so you'll want to get the color of your level, or just highlight it, or maybe not. Maybe you just use white. But in the future, you'll have wished you had done the color coding. Because like me, I've got all the different levels. And so like this level I know goes with a certain level. This level goes with its own level. So when you are sorting through books in years come, you'll be very happy that you've coded these books. So getting that label, making sure you have a color coding maybe system. But the next thing that we're going to do is, from your file binder, if you have this in here, or if you don't, if you have your 3 stacks, go to section 3. So in section 3, the very first page after the section 3 page is going to be your book list. From those piles, you want to pull out your book list for your history, your book list for your language arts, and your book list for your science. So pull each of those out now and then lay them out, and you're going to see the different topics of books in each of those. If you have some of those books in your box, pull a few of those books out and then look at your schedule sheet here. What we are going to do is help you figure out how to label these. Once you have cataloged all your books, it's going to take you 2 minutes to organize them. It's also going to help you, like if you have bookshelves like I do throughout my house, it's going to help you find a book that somebody's maybe put into a bookshelf where it doesn't belong. So the first year I didn't catalog my books. Wish I had, because we lost a few books within our own home in the other bookshelves because somebody was being helpful and putting books away. Well, when they're your school books, you don't want them put away just anywhere. So this helps that process. So on one of those sheets, say for instance you have the history sheet. I'm going to use the smaller book because it's easier. You're going to see, for instance, I've got to put my glasses on. You're going to see that perhaps the Usborne Mysteries and Marvels of Nature. It's a science book, and it starts in week 3. So you'll take your label piece, you'll cut it, and you don't want them really narrow. You want to have at least 1/4 of an inch, a little bit more than that, maybe 1/3 of an inch wide. And so on that particular book, you would have it be S for science, and right below it, you would have 3 because it starts in week 3. So you want the topic. So if it's history, it'd be H. If it was read aloud, it'd be RA. If it was a reader, it'd be R. If it were an advanced reader, it would be AR for advanced reader, if you happen to have one of those. So you give the letter of what the topic is, and then the week that it starts right below it. This year I happened to put them on the top. After that, I put all of them at the bottom. So whatever your method is, make it and then stay with it. It's better. I wish I had put them all at the bottom. It just makes it much easier. You want to make sure when you're cutting the label that you have it to wrap around far enough, because when you don't wrap it around far enough, they do come off. So some years I got a little stingy and realized that that's not a good thing either. So you want to make sure that they wrap around far enough. Sometimes you'll have to write that letter, like the history and the number, prior to putting it on the book, because if you do it after, some books are too narrow and it's just harder to write it. So it's easier to cut it out, put it in the center, and then label it after. So once you've done that, you've also touched all the books, you've looked at the copies, you've looked at the covers, you might have read the back of it to see what it's about. So then you will know that that book belongs to this level. You're becoming more familiar with it. And this is part of that prep time that you are going to be doing to get more familiar with your materials. So does anybody have questions on that piece on cataloging the books? If not, I will go on. But it is a very important piece. So the next piece that we have is Sundays. Sunday nights is going to be a very important. You can do it also anytime during the week, but it's important to spend this time and use this time. As you know, the research has been done for you, the scheduling's been done for you, the comprehensive questions, all of it's been done for you, which is an awesome thing, which is why you need to take this time to get to know the material. Because once you get to know the material, then you're not so overwhelmed with everything. So Sunday night is your planning time, is your prep time. And it might take a half an hour, 45 minutes max. And so you'll take and change out your file binder. You'll get the new pieces in your working binder. You'll read through the notes. You'll go through the math assignments. You'll go through all the language arts assignments. You go through the comprehensive questions, the vocabulary development. You'll cut out the timeline figures for the week that you have. You study the mapping pieces that you'll have so that you look like you know what the geography, where all the geography is, because we're also well-versed with geography, all of us, and know where Timbuktu is, right? So that just helps us to be prepared. And the wonderful thing about this is that when you do school every day with your children, you haven't spent hours researching and pre-reading and pre-doing everything, that you're not going to be just totally spent and burnt out on this. It's going to be fresh and new for you too. But the thing when you read over those questions and those vocabulary pieces, it makes it come up more easily and more fluid than if you were to sit and read that verbatim after each one. You really will remember those questions, so that when you've read through a chapter and you go, oh, okay, let me ask this question now, because you remember it, because you see it come up in the conversation of the book. Also the vocabulary. You'll go over those words and you might stop and say, oh, so did you understand that word? Do you know what that word means? Because you're already introduced to it. So it helps you to know that. But it also helps you, doing the Sunday night prep work also helps you to know when to pull out the new books. So this is where, when you categorize these books and you put them up on the shelf in order by weeks. So you put week 1 books, week 2 books, so that when we're on week 4, I can go to the bookshelf and say, oh, these are the 4 books that we're going to add new for this week. And then when you put them out on the counter, every Monday morning they're there, your kids are going to be excited to get up on Monday morning, because they're going to be wanting to know what are the new books for this week. And so the way the program works and keeps your kids interested in the books and leaves you at the cliff in the schedule. It's done for a reason. There's a purpose behind that. It causes that drive to want to come back to see what's going to happen next in the book. So don't read on just to help alleviate that. You're going to be hung on that cliff too, but it also will, when you say, okay, let's see what happens to, whatever it is, then everybody's going to come running. If you in the book where after you find out what that is, and then you say, okay, you guys, no, they might not be as interested to come back because they already know what happened in this piece. So then you have to get them interested in it. So do follow the schedule. If you happen to get ahead on some things, then maybe you're not doing the comprehensive questions or whatever, but I would encourage you to have all those pieces done before you allow it to go ahead in pieces. So when you're working that, you may put your math schedule in the front of, or make it go along in each week, or the handwriting, you can put it along on the week, but Sunday night you're going to be scheduling that. So you have this space below here that you can add in different pieces of schedule. There's also electives here that we're going to be talking about later, and how to handle that piece. So Sunday night or one time during the weekend, you need to just take the time to do that and read those notes so that you do know what's coming up, so that you aren't caught unaware of things. And it will just help your week go way smoother. I know for me, there were times when I didn't do it and the week wasn't as smooth. So I really would encourage you to do that. So the next thing is the telephone. How many of us love our telephones and love to text? This is totally from personal experience, and I saw it right on at the very beginning. When I would answer the phone or text, which was not too much of that far long ago, but there was a little bit of texting at the time. But if I stopped doing what we were doing to answer the phone, I totally lost them. And then when I came back, it was very hard to regroup and restart what we were learning. And what I figured out was that by me taking a phone call or doing text, I'm disrespecting that time that we've set aside for that. So if you think about a meeting that your spouse might be in, they don't stop and take a call in the middle of the meeting because it would be disruptive. Same thing with your schooling. You don't want to disrupt that. When you stop doing that and you make a habit of not doing that, your children will respect that because you're respecting them. So that is something that I can't impress enough, to not answer the phone. Tell your spouse that you're not going to answer the phone. Your friends are not going to enjoy it at first, but then they'll start understanding it, and they'll start realizing that you do respect the job that you are doing in educating your own children, and then they'll respect what you are doing far more. So after a time, they start understanding that they shouldn't call during that school time because you're not going to answer. And so the phone calls will stop coming as much, and you'll have a break time or lunchtime when you can return a call that might be important. If there's a way that you can set up a certain code for your spouse, if they need to get a hold of you, if it's an emergency, then everybody knows that if that certain signal of vibration or sound comes in, then they know that their other parent is wanting to get a hold of them, and it's an emergency. But it is important that that spouse knows that that's an emergency only. So one of the things I used to record, because I had an answer machine at that point in time, and I would say, we are in a school session right now, please leave your name and number. I'll get back with you when we are finished, or you can give a call back after X time. So they would then, realize that we aren't going to answer. So you could also put that message on your phone if you wanted to do that too. So I can't impress enough how important this really is. And if you want to try it for yourself, you'll see your kids respecting you for not answering. And if you just are upfront with them and tell them, I'm not going to answer the phone or text while we're in school because it's important to me that we have good quality time, they'll start respecting that. So the next piece is, how do you schedule out the subjects in the day? I went through a myriad of different ways that I did this and came then to one that I really liked, and it was well organized, and I felt that it was very good. And what I did was I used 20-minute segments. In any workspace or an adult job, you really should get up and move every 20 minutes because you need to get the oxygen flowing again, get your blood really moving again, and clear out the brain to be able to think again. And that has to do with lack of oxygen. So getting up and moving is good, and just refreshing the brain is good. So I started doing 20-minute blocks with 10-minute breaks. You have to make sure that it's only a 10-minute break. So if you need to set a little timer or have the kids set a 10-minute timer so that they're part of it too, set some sort of timer so that they know when that timer goes off, it's time to do the next 20 minutes. But in that break time, they need to also know that that's the time that they need to go empty their tank. And when I say go empty your tank, it doesn't mean that you have to go to the bathroom. It means that you need to go empty your tank so that you're not disrupted during that 20-minute time, because that 20-minute time needs to be quality time. And if you have somebody getting up to go to the bathroom at that time, it does distract that time. So everybody should be able to, take 20 minutes and be focused. So that 10 minutes is for them to move and to empty their tank and to just refocus. So if you need, have them run around the house 3 times or whatever, or go run after a ball, make them move, get them moving, or even if it's doing breathing exercise, it's extremely important. So the 20-minute time slots, how you organize that by topic is totally up to you. But what I found is that the pencil time is very important to do in the beginning of the day, because it's also the part that, and most don't really care to do it. So if you do it in the beginning when they're fresh and they're on top of it, then they get it and they can get it done, and they know that there's something good coming after it. Put the last pieces being the pieces that they enjoy the most, so they have something to look forward to. So, and if they want to spend more time on those, they can, because it's at the end. So 20-minute time segments, you might have to do 2 20-minute segments for a topic. You'll have to play with that a little bit. In our catalog, you can see, if you have the catalog, it will tell you a time requirement or an estimated time requirement, and then also the parent requirement for each level that you have, the one that you have. So as your children get older, the time segments have more requirement of time, not necessarily for the parent, but for the child. So they have more learning to do. So how I did it was I used this space out here at the 3-ring hole section, and I would write in there what element I was going to do at what time. So for instance, if you want to start school at 9 a.m., then you would do 9 to 9:20, and then that would be whatever it is. So let's say it's the language arts piece. So you'd put 9 to 9:20, and then I also put in the number. So I knew segment 1, 2, 3, 4, however many segments you have, so that you know where you're at. And then you'll put in where segment 2 is and what time that is. So if you start on the hour, like let's say you start at 8. If you're early risers, then you have your breakfast done, your chores done, your bed's made, and your dishes put away, your breakfast eaten, your vitamins taken, all of that, clothes changed, and ready for the day. At 8 a.m. school starts. So your first session would be from 8 to 8:20, and then you'd have the 8:20 to 8:30 is your break, And then your next segment, segment 2, would be 8:30 to 8:50, with your next break from 8:50 to 9. And then you do that again. So you get 2 segments per hour with 2 10-minute breaks. And then you would have a half-hour lunch, perhaps. So it really does help your day if you know what your time frame is, because then you start keeping it. If you don't have a time frame like that, your day can get away. It can really get away from you. So try for a week. You're going to have to tweak it. So try to see, okay, how long is it taking us for that kind of assignment? Maybe I need to have 2 segments for that, but only 1 for that one. So if you use that 20-minute rule with a 10-minute off, that will really help you to schedule out those pieces. Don't forget your math. Don't forget your handwriting. Remember your electives, but schedule out those pieces. So you might even just use a sheet like that calendar is on the page, and you might have it in here and have it be a generic sheet, or you might even put it in the back pocket saying 9 to 9:20 is history, 9:30 to 9:50 is history part 2, so you're doing the second set of that. So on the back, you'd have that generic schedule set up. So that would be a good way to keep that, and that would be just right here, and you'd go, oh, it's time for a break, kids. And then you go take, who's going to set the timer, and then you just go and run and do that. Any questions on that piece? Okay. Let's go to the next slide. All right. Next, we have the calendar. The calendar is one of those elements that my past clients loved this piece. And I have a calendar for all of August 16 through August of 17. So you have a full year. And what you want to do is you want to 3-hole punch it, because you're going to put this calendar in the very front of this working binder. So it's going to be in the very front, so that you can every day mark it off and know exactly where you are. And you'll see why that is. If you take note on this, you'll see that on the top right-hand piece, I have in some smaller italic writing different notes from me, and I've done a few things in there, but like sign up for our BookShark newsletter at bookshark.com, and follow us on Facebook, Pinterest, or Twitter. There's also a place that says, if you're close to a convention, start looking to see where they are, when they are, and when to register. And also come see me. Bring your calendar in with you. Maybe I'll have something for you. I don't know, I haven't figured that out yet, but maybe, or just say, hi, I attended your workshop. And then also I have on here a note that says, look for the 12 Ways Workshop alerts, and start planning for them. Next year I'll probably have a few more notes in there. You're welcome to come back again next year. I had clients come back year after year, so it's kind of a fun thing to do too. And maybe by next year I'll have a way to have it be a little bit more interactive. So now the calendar, what I want you to do with it is, I want you to think about what day you want to have day 1 be on the calendar. So what day do you want to start your school? So get a pencil out, not a pen. Get a pencil out and write day 1, or just write 1 on whatever day it is you're going to begin your school. Then I want you to go to the end of the calendar and find what day is going to be your last day of school. What do you want your last day of school to be? So you would write last day, and then you can put stickers on it or have fun with it. And then the day before that, I want you to put 144. We are a 4-day schedule, 36 weeks, so that gives you 36 days to have other things that you're going to be doing. And those other things can be co-op, 4-H, field trip days, science lab days, live theater days where you can have school groups go to live theater. That's one of the things I took here. I'm in Oregon, so I would take a group of homeschool families to the live theaters downtown Portland, and they were school days, so they gave us a great discount price. And we often would have 50 to 100 people going, and we'd go watch the plays, and then we would have critique after, and have a, maybe have a picnic in the park if with the weather permitting, or just go back. But what you can't do is plan on doing school after or something like that. So I would encourage you to expand the day to just include more time out doing things with your school. So you could do critiques on the plays and teach your children how to think about critiquing, costuming or staging or scripts or whatever. There's a lot of different things that you can do to expand their knowledge of how they look at a play when it's being done. But you have 36 of those days. So you might have a charter that requires that you be there once a week. So you'll want to put those days. I would use highlighters that are color-coded. I like color coding. So you'll want to put on those days that that you have specific things that are going on. Like if you have 4-H club, a homeschool 4-H club like we did, that was a specific day. If you have a co-op, it's a specific day. So color code those, fill those in, make sure they're there. You can't have more than 36 because otherwise you're going to lose time. So, I mean, you can, but you're going to be going to school more than the 180 days then. So you have to know that and be okay with that. And that's okay. You can do that. But those things are school time things. So they're educational pieces that you are going to be doing. So go through your calendar and put all of those, fill all of those days out. The next thing on your calendar that you will want to do is figure out when your family vacations are. Figure them out. Be extremely realistic. Don't cut yourself short. Make sure that you get the vacations that you want to get with your family. If you know perhaps in December that you like to do a lot of baking and you like to deliver your baked goods to different families around, plan that. Don't plan to do school at that time. Or if you like to decorate and you know that you just can't get it done any other time, plan that. Do that with your family. Make it a ritual. Make it something that you enjoy doing, but don't expect to do all of it all at once. So make sure that you're giving yourself time. When you are doing things like that, you can structure it as a learning piece because it's about organizing and setting up, and design can be part of decorating too. So maybe you have a design element class, and you could add fun things to that. It's exciting, it's fun. So add that to be part of your school time, but it might not be your book time. You have 144 book days, but that piece might not be that. So be realistic in what you set aside for your vacation time and what you know that you'll want to break for. So a lot of times you kind of lose momentum in December because of the daylight, because of holiday seasons, because of all the different festivities that could be going on in your lives in those certain times. So you will you'll want to make sure that those pieces are put in there. One other thing that I want to have you put in there is a flex day. This is important because a flex day will help you stay on track. So I would recommend that you do a flex day for each 2 months. So one flex day for 2 months is something that you'll want to set aside. So on that flex day, you'll just leave it blank and maybe circle it. So when you come along, it might be, you might have to use it up, but it's kind of a free day that gives you, not really a free day, but it gives you flex time. So that, let's say that you had relatives that came into town that didn't tell you they were coming. And so once they get there that you're not going to get school done. Or let's say that the electricity went out for the day and you have no heat and it's 20 degrees below outside, and so you have to figure out how to do that. So you're not going to get book stuff done because you can't see either, because it's dark outside. You can't see your papers, and your house might be dark, and how are you going to cook your food? So that can happen. Or maybe you wake up with a migraine. It's very difficult to work with a migraine. So you can get some stuff done sometimes, like with that, but not a lot. But I did find myself that when my son was ill, I actually got more school done than when he wasn't, because he just wanted to absorb. So we got a lot of reading done. We could do the comprehensive questions. We didn't get the pencil time done during that time because you don't feel like, writing, but doing some other stuff, it was really easy to get done. So the flex days are important. You may not use them up. If you don't use them up, you have the choice to either take that day off, use it as a vacation time, or save it for another time in case of another flex time comes up. Or at the end of the school year, you would bump up your end day so that you would use it that way, because it really is a cush day that you're reserving for yourself. So the instructor's guide does not come with a calendar per se like what I have for the handout. And that's why I like to create that calendar. It does have a schedule, so it has 36 weeks, and it does have the 4-day schedule per week. So in that way, it does have a calendar, but it's not laid out as a calendar. So because you can make your days be whatever days. So back to that now. We're back to the 144 days. So I want you to, you've already put day 1 on wherever you're going to start, and you put day 144 on the end, the day before you're going to end your school. Then what you do is you work from the beginning and write in the days as you go across, putting in the flex day every once in a while, marking out your vacation days, marking your, having already marked your charter school days or your co-op days, and then working from the bottom also. But what you can do at the very beginning to also kind of get ahead is, let's say the first 2 or 3 weeks, you don't have any charter or co-op or 4-H or any other thing. You can actually get 5 book days done in that time. So you're going to be doing, let's say this is the very first, you'll be doing day 1, 2, 3, 4 of week 1 and day 1 of week 2 in that 1 week. So you've already done 5 book days, and you can do that again the next week and reserve those 36 days for later on. And then that way it allows you to be able to get your materials done and kind of get ahead. Not really, but you're just using those days in a different way. So that is something I would recommend that you do, because the more you can get done in that way at the beginning of the school year just helps work through your calendar. So this calendar is going to take a little bit of time for you to work and rework. So you're going to be working from the top, going down as far as the numbers, and from the bottom going up with the numbers, so that in the middle you might have to shift it, which is why you want to use a pencil to figure out where it's going to end up being. So you may have to shift and figure it out, but you can always redo it, reprint it, because you have that file available to you. But this is a key piece. Once you've got that taken care of, you 3-hole punch it and you put it in the front of this working binder before all the weeks, because it's going to follow along all year. You'll be in that. And then as you do it, you can mark it off or make notes, understand where you have your flex days, see if you're using them or not, and mark it along. Okay. Are there any questions on that calendar? All right. Let's go on then to the next piece. The timeline. The timeline book is extremely awesome. It's just a wonderful book that's going to become a wonderful memory. I highly recommend that you have one for each student, because this becomes theirs. When you are doing your Sunday night, you are going to have cut out your pieces that you're going to be using that week. They come on label paper. This is already label paper. and they're not colored. The first year I didn't have them color them, but after that I did, because they don't connect if you don't color them. So like the picture shows, the Prismacolor pencils are the pencils to have. You can get a 40% off coupon for Michael's most of the time, and buy those pencils. They are well worth the money because they have beautiful color, and then the kids can really color vibrantly the way they're visualizing them. And that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to color those pictures the way they are seeing them being read to, which is why it's going to become their book. They can then keep this book for life. It'll be there. You can also create icons for their own life, their birth, whatever you do on vacation. They can put an icon in there and write what it is that they went and saw. So if they're going, doing anything on the Lewis and Clark Trail, or the cabin out here near Astoria, Oregon, where Lewis and Clark ended up, they could have that on here. Or wherever you're seeing, if you're going to Glacier Park or Yellowstone Park or Yosemite or whatever, you could have a figure for that. And maybe it's them at a site there so that they can always remember that. So I would recommend that you have one timeline book for each child. And then you have to remember to get extra sets of the timeline figures so that they each have their own figure. This book is not going to be full your first year. It's going to just have the icons that you have. It's not going to be full, but over the years, this gets very full. So you don't want to take up more space than needed, because it's going to get very crowded on some pages in there. So anyway, that is something that's very, very important. Okay, the pencils here are called Prismacolor pencils. And they're very vibrant. I used to teach the art in our co-op, and it was important for me that the students had quality products, because when you have quality products to do your artwork, you have quality pictures that happen. And it was amazing, the pictures that they would have, because of the vibrancy of that. Don't let them sharpen them, because you can sharpen them down really, really quickly, because they are softer pencils. Because that's what helps the vibrancy of them. But I would keep them aside and not let them be everyday pencils, but keep them for special pencils. So Prismacolor pencils are what they are. And they are expensive, but well worth it. So if you buy them now, they are kind of an investment, but they'll last for a very long time. And like I said, I would not let them sharpen them, because they can sharpen them down very fast. And they don't need to be. They actually last a long time. So again, the timeline book is important. What I did with the timeline book, the timeline stuff, was I cut it on Sunday night. I would have it ready. I knew what we were covering. And then on Friday night, while I was making dinner, I set up the counter and had the pencils out there with the timeline figures and the books. And as I was making dinner and coloring was happening, we were discussing. So it was a great history review, and it gave us time to just talk about the books that we had read and how it intertwines with each other. And then we put them in the book and cut around them so they were smaller then, and then put them in the book. It made a great time for review. Plus, also, it didn't take up the school time during the day for that. And it was just a fun activity. It was a fun kind of family activity, and helped that. So, Catherine, did you hear what those were? Did you get the Prismacolor pencils? And let me know if you didn't. Okay, read-alouds. Read-alouds are wonderful books that we have in our program. For the first three history pieces, the Introduction to World Cultures, the Introduction to World History Part 1, and Introduction to World History Part 2, the read-alouds sometimes match the history, but not always. They're just being introduced to great books. But from Introduction to World American History Part 1, the read-alouds, the readers, all the books actually pertain to the history that you're learning about. So at that point, it starts matching. So, but they're still great books at any of the levels. So what I did with these was I set them aside and let my husband read those at night, and I crocheted, and we just had wonderful family time and listened to those stories. And it was a wonderful way to, it's a wonderful way to include your spouse and have them know where in history you are, and help them to be able to be part of the conversation at dinner or in the car, or even add their own opinions on it. And it's just a wonderful way to let them be part of the school time. If they don't like to read, then maybe you do the reading, or if you've got an old child that you're teaching how to read aloud, but it's a fun time. What I didn't do during that time is we don't do the question and answers at the time, or the vocabulary, or the timeline mapping. None of that is done in the evening. We did that during the day. So you have to remember to schedule that in during the day to do that. You can do some of the discussion at night, but you don't have to. You can really do it the next day, and that's really testing what they're learning, if they're comprehending, and that's in place of exams. And I find that set exams, you're not really learning. You're learning to the test, and then most people forget it. But if you're just constantly quizzing yourselves and your kids, you know what they're comprehending, and you'll understand when they start talking logically about different political stands and history pieces and all of that. That you'll understand that they are learning with that. So that helps to reduce some of that time requirement during the day also, and it gives you great bonding and family time. So reading those aloud. One of the things I do want to say, though, about this is that during the read aloud time, you want to be sure that you stay on track as far as what you do read, because oftentimes you'll want to say, oh, can we read just a little bit more? And you want to leave them on that cliff. That's the important key to this. And you don't want to get ahead of it because you haven't done all the work that goes along with the book. So I would say no. If you need to read something else, maybe you read the next section of the history piece or something else. But I would keep it within what is needing to be read for that day. Or maybe if you know that you can't read the next night, maybe you read 2 nights worth. So stay on that cliff. Don't fall into the thing of needing to get the answer, find out what really happened, because you want to be able to be on another cliff before you finish. So don't get ahead of yourselves, because you'll also burn yourself out that way too. Okay, so here's some tips on the question and answers, the mapping, the timeline, and the creative expression exercises. So like I said before, when you're doing your Sunday night, read all those questions and answers so that you are aware of what they are. Because when you get to those books, you will remember those things. Make sure that you are reviewing where those mapping pieces are, so that you have knowledge of where it is, so that you can easily help your children fill out their own mapping piece. What we like to do, this map is awesome because it folds up and you can put it right alongside on the shelf with your books, and it's right there, and you pull it out in the morning and there it is. But what we like to do, my son loved to have this in his lap, and he would fold it so that he was on the place that we were on. And as we were going along in the book, he would have his wet erase markers, and he would mark as we went along. So it was fun to see where we were traveling with each book. You can color code if you want. There's 4 different colors in this pack, and you can also get more colors. But what you want is a wet erase, not the dry erase. The dry erase will rub right off. These are wet erase, so you can put a whole year's worth of mapping on here, and it's kind of fun to see what you've done through the year when you do that. We tried to fill it out as much as we can, and the first few years on the lower levels, you're not going to fill it so much, but when you get to like Eastern Hemisphere, it fills up really fast. So we wrote really small to try to get as much on there as we could. So that's a fun thing to do. So let your kids lay it on the floor, and as you're reading those books, they can be mapping as you go along. So you might stop and map as you're reading the history pieces or whatever pieces that need the mapping. Let them do that. Some of you at this point might say, oh, I have a child that just won't sit still when we read. You want to let them move a little bit. Some of you have kinesthetic learners, and they learn by movement. And so by activity, they might need to draw, or they might need to have a little car and drive that car. If they're respectful and quiet and can do that without interrupting anybody else, then let them do that, because that is how they learn. You might have a box that's for that time, so that it's a special box. And it has special toys that all go back in when you're done with that reading time, and then they put it away, and that's the only time that they can get that special box out. For some, it might be the Prismacolor pencils and just paper, so that they can draw as you are reading, because sometimes they'll just draw what they are hearing about. So those are some of the things for this. I'm going to stop right now and answer some questions. Let's see. It says, will you be discussing how a younger child can keep with their own language arts piece? I have a fourth and a second. We'll lead with fourth read alouds. I'm thinking that you're talking about combining. Kristen, are you talking about the history piece? Are you doing two separate pieces? Right. Okay. All right. So the activity sheets won't sync. Your younger child, if you're doing like a history section from level 3 up, and you have a younger child that's doing some of the other lower 5 language arts pieces that are more flexible, their language arts pieces are not going to match with it. What I do recommend in that case is to get them on, but that's part of the combining. So and I can't get off on that because that would go a huge long time to discuss that. But if you're interested in that, I would suggest that you plan on doing the combining and how to combine workshop that I'm going to be doing in a few weeks probably. So I would suggest that you maybe do that. Thank you, Kristen. All right, so where is the big folding map from? This big folding map is one of the required resources. You have 3 required resources, and it is this map with markers, the timeline book, and the binder and tabs. Those are pieces that you'll buy the first year, and then you don't have to buy them again. So that is part of that. If you didn't get that, I would recommend that you get that. It is something that you'll use year after year after year, and it's an awesome map. Okay, now let's go to the comprehensive, the creative expression exercises, the writing exercises. Those pieces are pieces that you're going to want to keep on top of, and that's one of the Sunday night awareness for yourself, is to know what those creative expression exercises are. When you have read through those notes, you're going to know that, because they come more at the end of the week when things kind of tend to be winding down. So when you have read all those notes and you know what's coming along, you're going to know how to prepare them for those creative exercises. In our language arts instructor's guide, we have something that's really special for our language arts piece. And that is there at the beginning of each week, you're going to have an overview of what's going to be touched on in the week. There's going to be some of them will have scripts. So if you have a concept that you're not comfortable teaching, you're going to be able to just read that word for word verbatim. And then there's also going to be rubrics. And rubrics will help you to, like here's a rubric for this particular week. It's going to help you know how to grade that exercise. But a rubric will also be something that you should show your children, let them read it so that they understand and have kind of an outline for what's going to be expected of them. So if they have this outline to know what they're going to be graded on, they've read it, they're going to be able to attain that far better than if you say, okay, do this, and it's kind of out there. They could be all over the board on that. So when you give them this outline for how to do that exercise, they'll be far more successful. So I would say use that in two ways. Use it for your student and use it for yourself to know how to grade that. So that's an awesome tool. So when you are planning your week, you'll know what's expected for their creative exercise. But one of the things with creative writing is that that creative expression, you don't want to stifle that juice, those creative juices. So if your child has a hard time putting pen to paper and they're fearful of what you might say as far as the language mechanics, oh, you didn't capitalize, oh, you didn't put the comma in, oh, you didn't put the period in. You don't want to do that when you're trying to teach them to write creatively. You want to let them just let those juices flow. So let them write it. Don't worry about the spelling or the mechanics at the beginning. Just let them write. Sometimes it might be good to go get an inexpensive recorder. Have them record it first and then transcribe it. Later, after they've written the story and have the creativeness, you can have them correct it as far as the language mechanics and have them learn that way. It can kind of be a dictation sheet at the same time. So, but at the beginning, don't criticize their mechanics of their creative expression assignment, because it's really about the creativeness and getting their story on paper. Maybe you're the scribe for them at the beginning, especially for the younger ones. Maybe you are the scribe that tells them or writes the story as they tell the story to you. So be a little flexible with the creativeness. If you find that your child is holding back, it might be because they're fearful of the criticism that they might get. So you want to make sure that you're not criticizing those mechanics pieces at an endeavor when they're trying to do creative stuff. Okay, so are there any questions on that piece? Okay. Sorry. Electives, music, art, and IT, and how to schedule those in. I put this in here because I think it's extremely important for you to have those electives. I think music appreciation and art appreciation are two pieces that are extremely important to develop the brain to help the person in math and in writing. So if you have a child that wants to be an engineer, this is important. And even if it's just music appreciation, it does help develop the brain. And then art the same way. And all of you are artists. It's just that maybe some of you have never been trained, just like math. If you haven't really studied that, you really aren't maybe so good at it. But if you studied it and studied it and studied it, you would become good. Just the same with art. So we have artistic pursuits that we offer. It's a great program. It's great for you. You'd learn from it along with your children, and it's fun because they do some art history appreciation, and then they do technique. And then there's the supplies that come with that. So it's good. If you don't finish it in the year, it doesn't matter. At least you're doing some. So in this schedule, same thing like before, it has the electives in here, and you could schedule that. I would do art once a week and music once a week. The IT, we do have Kid Coder and Teen Coder, so some coding things for computers, well written by a homeschool dad. We have those in there, so that's good. We also have the Piano Wizard, which is a way to learn to play piano. So if you don't have the money to have a piano teacher every day, this really does do a nice job of teaching how to play the piano. And you can use a computer keyboard that you just plug into your computer. It has to have a MIDI file on it. So you would just schedule them in, have them be light into your schedule, have them be once a week, but make sure that you schedule them. And that's what another thing that you would do on that Sunday night is to make sure that you're transferring that and writing that in, and also scheduling that into your time. And this is where that shows. So here's the electives box, and you can write those things in there. So if you had music appreciation, art appreciation, and the IT, so you'd write maybe kid coder right there. On this lower section, I sometimes would make a line all the way across and would add in the math schedule on that too, and handwriting schedule. So you can add different pieces, and you can just keep lining that out or just make notes for yourself. Okay, so the next section is just talking about you. And I'm sorry if there's men out there that are teaching rather than the moms. You do need your time. So whether it be mom or dad, whoever is teaching, you need your time. You need to have time to set aside for you, because this is a full-time job. And I think it's wonderful that you've chosen a program that's already scheduled, researched, because research takes hours and hours, months and months, and lots of time to figure out. So if you think about all the years that you're going to be homeschooling and all the hours that you're going to be saving, and maybe you have interests. I know I have lots of interests. If I hadn't had the program, I would not have been able to have those interests, and it would have burned me out. And as it is, it does take a lot out of you, but it's important for you to have you time, to whatever your happy space is. Maybe it's a bubble bath. Maybe it's a walk, a 20-minute walk every night. Maybe it's just having a quiet, dark room that you just need to breathe and do some exercises. Maybe you do yoga. Whatever it is, take that time and make sure you're making that time for you. It is important. It is important, even though we love our children dearly and want to be with them all the time, which is obvious when you do homeschool, then maybe you just spend, some time away from them, because you do need to have that. And they will also appreciate you more. So in this whole endeavor, in this journey that you have that will absolutely go by way too fast, in the moment of it, you do want to remember to do that. So in that schedule, on that calendar, make sure you do that. Make sure you have that time set aside for you. And with that, I say, if you think of it as a cup of tea, have a cup of tea, take a deep breath, and who doesn't like a good piece of chocolate? So enjoy some chocolate or whatever is your go-to, just pleasure time. So take time for you. And in this part right here, I want to say that you probably have children that you've had to have a timeout with and have them take a timeout. If people watch like I do, I've seen adults who also need a timeout. And as adults, we don't think of it as needing a timeout. But really, most of the time, what it is the blood sugar levels are imbalanced, and you need to balance those back out, and you need to just regroup. And so if you find yourself in that where you need to regroup, where you're just at the end of your rope, your children will learn to respect you more if you stop and say, okay, Mama needs a timeout right now, and I'm going to go take that because I need to regroup. You're going to, number one, show them how to regroup. They're going to watch you, and you're going to have eyes all over you on that. And then they'll see your attitude about it. They'll see that it's actually a positive thing to do. And when you go and regroup, you're saying to them that you recognize that you can get out of hand sometimes too, and that you can come back with the right attitude, with regrouping. And it's interesting because if you find that your children, all of your children are misbehaving one day, it could be because they feel you're off balance too. So if you take those times to have your own timeout, like maybe the other adult that you saw out in public who needed a timeout perhaps, And you take that. Maybe for them, when you set them for a timeout, maybe they get an orange or an apple or a piece of cheese or something, because maybe they are fighting a blood sugar level drop. So that also teaches them to understand their own body at the same time. So you doing that will help them to understand, and will also help them not go into a deeper fit. They'll go, oh, okay, Mama did this. I guess I can do this, and I understand what I need to do now. So it's not about a negative behavior change. It's about saying, okay, I need an attitude adjustment. I need to take time out for me. I need to realize and regroup. And so when children are understanding that, you're going to have them back much quicker. And sometimes they might say, and I start understanding, hey, Mama, can I have a timeout because I'm about ready to blow my socket and I don't want to do that. And can I have an orange to go along with that? And if it's a good piece of food that they need, they're starting to understand their bodies. Allow them that time and allow yourself that time. So if you're showing them that, they're going to respect you, and they're going to respect time out a lot more and a lot quicker. So I would encourage you to do that. All right. Your bestie. In this time of educating your children, don't lose sight of your bestie, because sometimes you can just download on them or with them, not on them, but with them, to help you get through a hard time, or help you just to let it out and then regroup and come back. Because sometimes there might be just times, or maybe you just need to cry, or maybe you need to share a special time with about something that happened that made you really excited, and you didn't really have anybody to share it with. Or maybe you do have an ailing parent that you just need to just be able to cry without your children always seeing that. So don't forget to do that. Put that on your calendar. Make that part of your calendar to schedule in. So I would recommend no longer than every 2 months, but maybe once a month, to have that time with your bestie. Because you do need to fill your gas tank just like a vehicle. So make sure you're filling your gas tank up with that. Okay, so again, I'm going to be doing the combining and choosing. It's going to be probably more combining, how to combine children. I'm going to do that workshop. So if you are interested in that, and I'm going to try to do it as soon as possible, but I am traveling next week, so it won't be next week at all. It'll probably be the week after that. But I'll put it out there, and I'll schedule as many as I need to, because I'm going to limit them. I can only have 9 per. So if you're interested in that, please put the subject line as combining workshop, and email me at this email. If you do have general questions, you can email bold, BOLD, at BookShark.com. But I would also encourage you to go sign up for our Facebook page so that you're aware of what's going on, aware of the workshops that I might be adding and doing, seeing where we are as far as conventions, sharing information, asking questions on there. I would encourage you to do that. There are, I think, 3 Facebook sites that I am aware of, but one is ours, and so we can really answer more questions there. But I would encourage you to sign up for the newsletter. It comes out once a month, and it just has general information. Sometimes like this workshop was on that. But if you're not signed up for that, you won't get that information. So I would encourage you to sign up for that so that you do have that. So one of the things I have not yet talked about is at the beginning of the year, make the first day fun. Have brand new notebooks and papers and rulers and things like that, so it's exciting and fun for them. Make it special. And then the last day, do the same thing. Wrap the year up. At the end of week 36, you will have certificates that you can fill out. So there's going to be a completion certificate. Have you and your spouse sign them and make it special, make it a celebration, make it a party, treat it special because you will be done. Have them take their full binder of their own portfolio and take it up and put it in that special box so that it's then stored away. So it's already organized and put away and already recorded and set aside. So that's what that last day is for, that last day of school. And then maybe you go and do a field trip day after you've organized some, put together the special celebration. Have your own parents come over, aunts and uncles and families and other people, and do a last day presentation so the kids can do a public speaking kind of presentation and showing what they've done for the year. Maybe have them pick out certain things that they've done through the year to show and explain maybe their most favorite thing. So maybe that's like at week 38 you start, or 38, maybe at week 34 or 35 you start have them put together their favorites of the year so that they can then do that presentation if you choose to do a presentation like that. It's a fun thing to do. But it also then you can give them their certificate of completion, and kids feel good about that when they're being shown and how special they are. So take that time to plan that last day. But that again is on that calendar. So that's all of my workshop. Do you guys have questions that I can answer for you? If not, remember you can ask us questions at any time. The general questions can go to Bold at BookShark, and we're here to help you. So if ever you feel overwhelmed or like you don't understand, please do contact us because we do want to help walk you through. And you do have my email, so you can shoot me an email. And like I said, I do travel a lot to see charters, the schools out there. Oh, yes, thank you, Mindy, about reminding me to talk about high school. And we have one new program that's coming online, History of Science. That's for, it's our level 8. It's between level 7 and 100. It's for ages 13 to 16, I believe. And it's History of Science. Wonderful books. You can get the preview of it. It will be released on August 29th. But awesome books that go with that. Next year, we'll be adding the science element to this. It's not a science. It is a history of science. So you'll want to take a look at that. It's wonderful. Then for next year's release, we are going to be working on government and econ and biology for high school. The year after that, we're going to be either doing chemistry or physics, and then also world history for high school. And then adding each of the literature pieces and all of that as we go along. So right now for high school, we have American history for ages 14 to 16. And so that's what we have, the American history in depth for that as a one-year study. And at the high school level, we have the student guides. So they have the same guide without the answers. So they can be very independent. So right now we have the American history. Next year we're going to be adding government and econ. The year after that, our plan is to add the world history, and then we're adding the sciences in addition to that. So next year it should be the biology, and then we're also going to be filling out level 8's science and language arts piece next year also. So it's exciting. I'm glad we're expanding to that and seeing that happen. So any other questions? Thank you for reminding me about that. All right, everybody, you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me. I hope you got a lot out of this. Do sending me an email if you have questions, or bold at bookshark.com. Do be on the lookout for other workshops or other ways to learn. And if you are part of a co-op, or not a co-op, a charter school, I hopefully will be visiting your charter soon. And if I'm not, ask them to invite me, and I will check into coming and visiting you guys and sharing more information with you on a personal level. You have a wonderful day. Thank you.